Hi there, I'm Katie Farrell with Dashing Dish, and today we're going to talk about meal prep made easy. So, no matter what your personality type is, no matter what your lifestyle is like, I'm going to talk about some different ways that you can learn how to meal prep and just make it really effortless and easy for you. So, first and foremost, I will say that meal prep comes very naturally to me. I am a recipe developer, I have been for over 15 years. And so, just thinking ahead about what I'm going to make is really second nature for me. But I do realize it is not second nature for everybody. And that is why on Dashing Dish, we've created state-of-the-art meal prep tools and a grocery list builder. And we have meal prep plans that are already made for you that all you have to do is actually just make the food. So we have various tools that we've designed at Dashing Dish to help you with these things. So if you do feel like you need extra help, definitely check out the meal plan builder on Dashing Dish where you can customize your own meal plans, or you can also just download a meal plan that's already made for you, like I said. So we're going to get into this. I'm going to talk about some different ways or styles of meal prepping so that you can identify what is best for you and your personality type. So there's three styles of meal prep, I think. The first is the full meal prep, the second is partial prep, and the third is plan to prep. So you may be somebody who is more type A, let's say, and you really like to have all your ducks in a row and everything organized and made ahead of time. Full meal prep will probably be best for you. Now, I will tell you, full meal prep is going to take you more time when you're meal prepping. So let's say you do it on the weekend, it's going to take more time when you're actually prepping, but it's going to require very little work throughout the week. So this would be great for you also if you have a very, very busy week schedule. So it's something that you really cannot think about making meals ahead of time, or I should say during the week, but you can ahead of time. This would be a really good style of prep for you. So there's three basic ways that you can full meal prep. The first one is to prepare full meals and package them all individually so that you literally have your exact meals ready to go in a container. The second is to prepare one pot or one pan meals. And the third is to prepare soups, crock pot meals, etc. ahead of time. Now, if you're going to prepare your full meals, I would say plan at least 2 hours on a meal prep day. Choose meals that you can say, okay, these will be good in the fridge for about 5 days, because that's what you want to plan for is about 5 days. And I will say 5 days is really a safe zone with most foods. However, not all of them are going to taste the best at 5 day mark. So if let's say you're planning ahead for 5 days, you may not want to make salads, or if you do, you might want to just plan to add the sauces or the dressings just before eating certain meals. And then, so one of the ways that I like to think about meal prep is also what you're going to be storing your food in. So if you are making individual meals ahead of time and you're leaving the food in there for 5 days, I would suggest getting glass Tupperware, and I will share my favorite glass Tupperware as well, so that when the food is sitting in there, it stays its freshest, but also there's no chemicals leaching from plastic and whatnot. So one of my favorite things to do if I am going to prepare a full meal ahead of time is to do a one pot or a one pan meal. So I like to do sheet pan meals, meals in a skillet, casserole dish, one big batch of food, maybe once or a few times a week. And you could consider doubling the recipes in having some in your freezer for leftovers. That's always a really good meal prep tip. And then you could always consider making the meal ahead of time and then baking it just before you eat it so that it does taste the freshest. That's what we do in my house. If I am going to make something ahead of time, a full meal ahead of time, I will usually wait to bake it just before we actually eat it so it does taste the best and like I just made it. I do like to also prep full crock pot meals ahead of time. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll make just the ingredients for the crock pot meal. I'll put them in a container or a Ziploc bag, and then I'll throw them in my crock pot that morning or that day that I'm going to actually be making to serve that meal. You can also make them in big batches and store some in your freezer again for leftovers. And so that's kind of the best ways to think ahead when making full prep meals. You could, of course, also be like those Pinterest people that perfectly portions each an individual meal ahead of time. And that is wonderful. If you have the time and the capacity to do that, that's excellent because then you literally just grab your individual container and you go and you have your meal ready to go. The second type of meal prep, which is me, and I do believe that most people will be able to do this if you have a type A personality or a type B personality. So somewhere in between, like the extreme organized person, but also you've got a lot of life going on, which is definitely me, is the pre-prep meal prep. So what I like to do is I like to pre-prep some of the things that I'll be putting into my meals for the week. So I like to prepare proteins ahead of time, prepare my produce ahead of time, and prepare my grains ahead of time. Now, this could be something that I'm just preparing for snacks or for side dishes, but most of the time it's things that will go into a recipe or into a meal. So let's say on a Sunday, I'm looking ahead and I'm thinking about the meals that I'm going to be making. So I don't actually make the full meal, but I know, let's say I'm going to make a taco casserole. Well, one of the things I'll want to do is prep my produce, prep my protein and prep my grains for that meal. So I may brown up some ground beef or some ground turkey to go into that taco casserole. I may also wash some zucchini and dry it so that I can put that into the casserole. And then I may also boil some quinoa, rinse it off with cool water, and package that up just in a glass container so I can add that into the casserole. Then that way, when Tuesday night comes and we're having our taco casserole, I just have to dump things together, mix it all up, and bake it. So I'm not actually making the full meal ahead of time, but I'm prepping things ready to go so that I do have the components ready to make a meal. And it takes a lot of the work out on the actual weeknight when it's busy. So when it comes to prepping produce or some proteins, some things I like to make ahead of time for meals are crock pot shredded chicken. Cooked chicken can go a long way in many ways. You can even add it to salads or wraps if you're in a pinch. Roasted or grilled chicken, ground up browned turkey or beef. I also like to form some beef patties ahead of time to just throw on the grill for burgers. And then prepping my produce, I like to wash all of my produce in a really big stainless steel bowl and colander, and I will share which one I use. And then I just soak it in some baking soda and or vinegar, depending on what I'm washing. So like the more gentle and fragile things like strawberries, let's say I do baking soda, and the things that have a thicker skin and maybe more waxy coating like apples, I'll do vinegar. And I will soak those for about maybe 2 to 5 minutes, depending on what it is, rinse it off and put it on a towel to dry. And then once it's totally dry, I will usually store it in a glass container or mason jar. And I will tell you, my produce lasts absolutely 5 days in the fridge that way. I just make sure that if it is something that's a little bit more wet, I do line the container with paper towel to absorb any extra moisture, and it stays really, really fresh. And then I prep some grains. So I like to boil my grains, rinse them with cold water, drizzle them with avocado oil. That just stops the cooking process and it makes it so that they don't stick together or clump up. I like to prep whole grain rice, quinoa, and also some organic pasta. And that's also great as a side dish when you're making a meal. And then the third type of meal prep is plan to prep. So there are two basic ways you can do this. First, you can have just a very basic plan to follow. You can do that using the Dashing Dish calendar. So you just have your calendar chosen, you have with your recipes, and I would say even if you just have 3 dinners a week, that is going to be a great head start for your week. Just having a plan of some sort. And then you just have those on your calendar. You can even print that off, put it on your fridge. And then you have all the ingredients in your grocery list. You order those groceries or you go pick them up or you go to the store and get them. That way you know you have a plan in mind. So then really all you have to do is make whatever dish that is. And if things get busy, then you just go to a backup meal maybe in your freezer, or you go to a go-to meal, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So this is really the least way of actually planning ahead. You don't make anything on a meal prep day. You don't prep anything on the weekends. And when life gets really busy, I have to say this is what I do is I just plan to prep. I don't actually prep anything, but I do have a plan in mind. I get my groceries, I know what I'm going to make, and then I go ahead and make it on the actual day that we're eating that thing. The second thing that you could do if you really don't have a plan with plan to prep is plan go-to meal ideas. So you may not even have time to actually think about what you're going to make or go grocery shopping, but it's good to always have a few go-to meal ideas in mind so that when things get really busy, you don't have any plan at all, and then you're just wondering what do we eat for dinner. So what I like to do is I like to create a plan, and I would like to keep it on the fridge so that I can see what we plan to eat. Some helpful ideas to plan. Have a theme night. This makes it so easy, especially if you're not a planner, to have, let's say, 2 nights a week where it's a Taco Tuesday and it's a Pizza Friday. And it doesn't mean you have to eat pizza and tacos. You can go on Dashing Dish and type in taco or pizza in the search bar. It will bring up hundreds of recipes that are taco or pizza inspired. And that will give you kind of like a cheat sheet because you don't even have to think about it. You just know that you're going to do a taco meal and a pizza meal for 2 nights of the week, every single week. Also, reuse family favorites. I think sometimes we try and create something new every single night, and that gets really overwhelming. Find the things that your family loves and make that every single Wednesday, your family favorite, just every Wednesday. And that just doing that really takes a lot of the thinking out of meal prepping if it is overwhelming to you. And then I will also say, if this is all new to you and you think, I can't even think about 3 nights a week, just start with one day a week, your busiest meal of the day. So maybe that's breakfast for you. Can you plan ahead one to three breakfasts for next week? That's all you have to think about. And then build from there. The key with meal prepping is when you begin to do it, it starts to become more of an effortless habit. It just becomes easier over time the more that you do it. So what I would always tell people, for me personally, with 2 little kids, is dinner time is the busiest time of day. So if I was to have nothing else planned, I would make breakfast and lunch really, really simple, and I would have a plan for dinners at least 4 nights a week, because you can always go out to eat 1 night a week or just kind of throw something together like pancakes for dinner 1 night a week. But I like to have a solid, healthy meal for my family 4 days a week. So I would start there, and then you could start to think about breakfast and lunch ideas as well. So a few go-to dinners. This is something that I mentioned that no matter what your style of meal prep is, I would suggest having a few go-to dinners. And what I mean by that is having at least one go-to freezer meal option ready in the freezer at all times. Now, this might overwhelm you, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. If you simply make a double batch of something that you make along the way. So let's say you're making tacos and you're cooking up some ground beef. Make 2 packages of ground beef while you're making that one, and then freeze one of the packages. So that's in your freezer. And whenever you have a really thrown off day, which life happens to all of us, where you didn't have a plan, or maybe you had a plan and it didn't work out, then you have something in your freezer as your backup that you can pop in the oven or the microwave. Also, have 2 to 3 quick and easy meal ideas at all times that you have most of the ingredients for. So for me, that would be breakfast for dinner and pizzas. So when I say pizzas, I mean flatbread pizzas that I have in my freezer. I just pull out a flatbread, just a whole grain pita or something like that, some pizza sauce in my pantry, and some mozzarella cheese, which we almost always have. And you literally put those in your air fryer and you cook them up in like 8 minutes. That's a go-to meal idea if we have no plan at all and is almost like an emergency situation. The other option for us is breakfast for dinner. So having protein pancakes, I just have all that ingredients in my pantry all ready to go, and I just whip up a batch of pancakes, and who doesn't love breakfast for dinner? So those are my 2 really easy go-to meal ideas, as well as a few things in my freezer that I usually have made just double batches of. So that's really helpful even if you do have a plan and it didn't quite go as planned, which happens to all of us. Some go-to lunch ideas, because we've talked a lot about planning for dinners, but go-to lunch ideas, keep it really simple, especially if you're learning this for the first time. I like to plan just leftovers for lunches a lot of time. I'll make just a little bit extra, and then me and Ollie, who's home during the day, we'll have our leftovers from the night before for lunch. Also, for lunches on the go, so Sean and Maddie, when they leave the house in the morning, I will do assembly line lunches for them in my meal prep time. So on Sundays, I will make sandwiches, assembly line style for Sean, and I will make the lunches in Maddie's little bento boxes for her lunches to go to school the 2 days that she goes to school. So that just makes it really effortless because then I don't have to think about lunch. And then for breakfast, the main thing with breakfast is it has to be quick, easy, and able to go on the go, right? And also, my big thing with breakfast is make sure it has protein and fiber to fuel the start of your day. That's so, so important because in America, we really do have breakfast totally messed up when we start our day with cereals or bagels or just bread. You know, that is not the best way to start your day, especially when it comes to your blood sugar. So I would suggest things like smoothies, protein shakes, overnight oatmeal, which you can make ahead, baked oatmeal singles. We have a ton of those on Dashing Dish, egg bakes, hard-boiled eggs, breakfast burritos and sandwiches, and also my Greek yogurt bagels on Dashing Dish. I love to make those and toast them up. They're great with all kinds of stuff, and you can eat those for lunch as a sandwich. And then for snacks, again, these are not things you have to make ahead of time. You can make them just on the spot. But when I do make snacks, I always double batch them. And I make things like my homemade Dashing Dish muffins, oatmeal balls, protein balls, and any kind of bars that are on my website. Those are great to make in double batches. And again, freeze one of those so you're not baking all the time and you have some healthy snacks that are ready for you. Some store-bought options for snacks are string cheese, deli meat that's rolled up, carrots with hummus, Greek yogurt, just make sure it has low sugar, and smoothies. Anything that has low sugar, higher protein, and clean ingredients are great snack options most of the time. So personally, I pre-prep my meals. I prep some ingredients to go into my meals. And like I said, I do make lunches for the people that leave my house for the day. And I usually double batch a few snack ideas every now and then on my meal prep days. I always have a plan for the week. That is the essential thing. And ideally, I do make some things ahead of time so that it makes cooking throughout the week a lot easier. Like I said, I'm a big believer in double batching whenever I can and freezing. That will truly save the day when you least expect it. So I hope these tips were helpful, and check out Dashing Dish, not only the meal plan builder, but the blog section of Dashing Dish for a ton of meal prep tips and ideas. I hope this helped, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.